Time for the briefest of panel discussions. John, you seem terribly excited by all this 3D printing thing. It sounds absolutely terrifying to me. I mean, can you actually make more than a blue plastic duck? I mean, can you make anything, you know, something you might want?
Yes, you can make clothes, you can make food, you can make chocolate, you can make a full-size Harley Davidson if you'd really like. Often, of course, or bicycles, because often you're downloading parts and then you assemble that. Just the same way you would assemble a flat pack.
I mean, there's a foundry in this thing, is there? There's, you know, there's lots of knitting and cotton, or, I mean, how does it work? Oh, it's probably too complicated to answer, but go on.
It's a bit like fitting in trimmer lead, plastics, and at the moment predominantly it's plastic and glass, etc. is involved in that, and it's a bit you feed the raw materials just into like you might fill a fax previously, and then it scans the 3D design and builds it up in front of your eyes, and it can actually produce very complex components, moving components, etc. Some things that conventional manufacturing can't actually do at the moment. So, yes, it's early days.
If you want to see something that 3D printing has actually done, I think it's probably still in the house, in Lancaster House. When I was here last week, there's actually a 3D violin, isn't there? Have you seen it? Is it still in the house? If you look around these various installations and things, have been made by one of these 3D printers. Now, please, anybody, we've got literally about 10 minutes. I've got a few things that I want to take up, but is there any questions that any of you would like to raise? We've heard so much this afternoon, so much that's stimulating, it sort of makes the brain go soft, doesn't it, having all this? Yeah, we need a microphone. Can you tell me who you are, and can you tell me if it's, the question is addressed to any particular member of the panel? Thanks.
Yeah, my name's Tim Harrop from Lycross Farm in Somerset. I'm really interested in the technological side that we've been discussing this afternoon. I just wondered what the political implications are of this evolution, revolution, because you did mention it in your last piece there, that there are political implications.
What particular political implications did you have most in mind?
Just the rapid change that's going on, I mean the effect that's happening with Nokia, that are losing their position in mobile phone manufacture. They were the leaders, and now their market is being destroyed. And it's not just mobiles, it's retailers. You know, I think there are some really hard questions to address. I don't know quite how you do it politically, but there are some impacts there that are not really been addressed here today, I don't think.
Okay. Would you like to?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think they're profound. And there are examples, both positive and negative. I think from a positive standpoint, in a lot of the emerging parts of the world where they're being able to leapfrog things like banking infrastructure or even retail infrastructure to do home delivery, to do banking. And it's in places like Kenya where it's expensive to move currencies and risky for your life. Having be able to do it on a mobile phone is providing quite a benefit. You know, politically, I think globalization, the latest downturn, what we've seen that I'm particularly worried about is like small businesses were hurt, still hurting and not coming back at all. And so they're losing share to large players. And even the large retailers that I talk to are recognizing that, you know, that's going to have an impact on national economies because they ultimately are their customers. And so it's going to have an impact on their large businesses. So it's a paradox that technology is supposed to get cheaper all the time and more available all the time. But the pace of it and the ability for large, medium-sized, and even small, medium-sized, and even large to keep up with it is becoming quite a challenge. And it's creating winners and losers.
But on this wider issue, I mean, we're talking about a borderless world here. And if we're talking about a borderless world, then the abilities of still national governments are the way we organize ourselves politically to have some level of control and regulation is accordingly reduced, isn't it? I mean, isn't this going to create all sorts of issues? Geoffrey, can I ask you about, for instance, data privacy? Whose responsibility is it for data privacy? Is it the retailer? Is it the payment organizer? Or is it the regulator?
Well, in law, it's very clear it's the retailer who's the data owner and is responsible. But I think the earlier point you made is quite interesting, because I think the politicians are raging against the dying of the light here. And we're seeing in the UK a lot of dialogue about trying to repatriate powers from Brussels, for example. It's all they talk about. The only way that the people can take control of things and have the world running their own interests is by pooling sovereignty and by taking decisions at a level where the multinational companies can negotiate with a multinational authority. I mean, we saw with Coca-Cola, want to do some great stuff around sustainability, we've got to negotiate with 400 local authorities. We'll multiply that by how many countries there are in Europe, and you get a headache at board level in a company that wants to do something. So I think we need to match the borderless world with some borderless authorities to deal with it.
Okay. Anybody else want to raise a particular point? What would fascinate me about this really is, if you were advising a retailer, Mark, what innovation would you say? Oh, you don't want to do that. I mean, everything this afternoon, and indeed this morning, has been so enthusiastic in this particular area about we can do this, we can do that. You know, if I'm a retailer and I'm thinking, what do I do and what do I not do? It's almost as useful to know, what road not to go along as it is to go, the road to follow.
Well, don't build a new warehouse store. If you look at some of the studies in commercial real estate, it's already impacted how footprints are being designed, but that's 7, 12 years in the making where that will transform and you'll have different footprints. I think you alluded to this, where smaller stores, experiential stores without inventory, because I really think people have to understand we're living in a day where probably 3, maybe 4 years hence, you'll be talking about every sellable SKU in your store shippable same day to a house or an apartment, same day. So the implications to that, to retailers holding inventory and leases on square footage, is profound. And they have to pivot and create an advantage with that real estate while they, move to this new norm. The gentleman that reinvented retail for Apple, Ron Johnson, went over to run JCPenney, a huge retailer in the United States, who has to absolutely reinvent their model. And they're doing it from the experience up, using whole new technologies and thinking about the customer very differently. So those are, I don't know what I would say not to do. There's a lot to do. Not of it is a lot of opportunistic. There's a lot of experimentation that simply will not work. And it will cause a lot of churn and expense for retailers. And if they get it wrong, it could be deadly.
Could be deadly, but you're not going to give any huge tips on what not to do. Apart from not build warehouses.
Yeah. Well, I would say leverage. I mean, I really mean that eBay obviously is reinventing itself around this concept of we're not a retailer. And what we realize we are a digital technology company. Mm-hmm. And we can open up that platform so that retailers can work with us. We bought a company called GSI Commerce in the United States that has distribution facilities across the United States competitive with Amazon, so that online retailers and brands and physical retailers can take advantage of scale, pick, pack, and ship capabilities. You have to find leverage in your business like that, or you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
John, what's the high road to disaster in all this, do you think?
I think it's similar to many other areas where you have this remorse, is almost what we call the sort of the global digital tsunami that's occurring. And in fact, particularly in the retail sector, which will know a lot about this, I think it's going to be more and more increasingly a case of just in time. In other words, move too early and you'll crash and burn, is the term. If you move too early or too heavily, but track it, watch it, and move at the right time, either by investing in that approach or by an acquisition, etc. But be aware of it, because the general view is this stuff is not going to go away.
I suppose the last question I want to ask, because we're going to draw this session to a close. You can, okay, go on, Jeff.
There's a trite answer that says that keep focusing on your customers, and if you don't, that's when bad things happen. But a couple of more frivolous examples, maybe. Shopping walls. So Tesco's put out a new shopping wall in Gatwick Airport a couple of days ago, got a lot of publicity, saw one of their shopping walls up on one of the slides earlier on. The idea that people are going to buy their groceries by photographing bottles of milk, I think is laughable. It's a gimmick, right? It's a way of getting you to download their application. But no one seriously expects me to start photographing bottles of milk and have them delivered to my home. Particularly, you only get 80 SKUs on a shopping wall, and in Tesco's they've got more than 80 kinds of milk. Multiply half litre, 1 litre, 4 litre by full flavour, everything else. But the other thing that really irritates me is QR codes. They're ugly and they're infesting marketing because they're free. So I think 1 in 8 print adverts in the UK now carries a QR code, and you've no idea what you're going to get when you scan one. Increasingly, people scan them, find they're getting something they don't want, won't scan another one. So, yeah, QR codes and shopping malls for me would be 2 things not to invest in.
Last question of this session and of the day is, there's been a lot of trumpeting about the UK's being ahead of the curve in all this, but surely the whole point that's been made contiguous to that point is the fact that it's completely borderless. Nobody knows where the server is that's going to be doing all this. How can any one country stay ahead of the curve? Perhaps with the United States and all its expertise in this particular area. But how is this not going to suddenly? What's the UK's USP that might enable them to stay ahead of the curve all this while? Actually, I'm going to ask all 3 of you. Go on, John.
Why? Because I think there's a combination of a creative culture in the UK, and creative in the widest sense, that the UK has a trust reputation in international markets by and large. The UK is trusted generally to be safe and reputable, not always, of course, but I think there is that trust embodiment when you're crossing borders, etc. And the fact that the UK has always created and developed innovative technologies. It hadn't always been very good at taking them to market. But in fact, I think we're seeing now opportunities, as you've seen by some of the speakers today, embracing these new technologies and moving fast. And not being inhibited. There's always talk about the UK not creating a Microsoft or a Google, but in fact we're on that cusp now, I think, where the Americans have always had an opportunity to have an indigenous domestic market which was big enough to get them started, and then they could scale from that. The UK never had that scale, but now it has, because it's got this potential global reach.
Geoffrey, trust is a good point, isn't it? Because every online transaction involves a fairly high degree of trust.
Hard work, ingenuity, charm, and integrity. If you've got those 4, you'll win.
And economy, as you demonstrated by your answer. Mark, last word with you. Sure. You can give the dispassionate, objective view on all this.
Well, it won't be. We're investing quite heavily in this market. There's something about the geographic layout, the type of population, and the trends it's going through where I think the UK, we're seeing things move faster in terms of the new retail and the new commerce. I think you've got retailers here that are very advanced, that have already experimented with different store platforms, Tesco, Sainsbury, queue breaking, things of that nature. Mobile commerce is way ahead here. Customers are more used to it. I think there'll be several leapfrog opportunities here that will guide the rest of the world because of the uniqueness of the UK market. So there's every reason to believe that you'll have both very successful traditional retailers who will get this omni-channel, and you'll also have retailers that started their lives online that start to create experiences in the physical world. And I think that'll be fascinating. I think it'll probably happen a lot here first in the UK.
Okay, I'm going to draw this to a conclusion now. It's a happy task to invite you to the reception, which is taking place in the state dining room and out in the garden. I don't know about you, but my brain's reeling from some of the stuff we've heard, particularly this afternoon. Absolutely amazing insights into what I never knew was going on. So I feel 100 miles behind the curve, but I've been brought up very close to the curve this afternoon, for which I'm very grateful. I'd like to thank the organisers, including special thanks to the sponsors for this, and of course for the British government for hosting the event and helping to assemble such a magnificent array of retailing and e-retailing talent today, and also for the lunch, which I thought was terrific, and thanks to Bibendum, by the way, for the booze, which was very nice. Could you, don't forget, you can't walk away with the Samsung tablet, you'll end up in jail. Can you leave it behind? Please don't think that the event ends here. If you've not already registered to join the British Business Club, and why would anybody not want to join the BBC? Please do. It's the gateway to UK enterprise for international decision makers, and you can join by going to www.britishbusinessclub.org. Enjoy the reception. Meantime, can you show your appreciation for our second panel of the afternoon? Thanks very much, and enjoy the reception. Thanks.